if Xavier loses the game, I don't think anybody's going to be like, man, how's that going to impact their tournament chances? Because I don't think anybody views them as a team that is going to make the tournament or that has to make the tournament. And I don't think anybody's going to use that game and use it as an indictment against Richard Pitino. I think Richard Pitino's body of work so far with this team has been pretty good. They look like they're responding to him. And so maybe it's not house money. A rivalry game is never house money. I don't think there's a Xavier fan alive who would go, it's kind of a house money. But all right, we weren't supposed to win this one. It is year one, new coach. There is a talent issue. You're not going to win every single time at the Cintas Center, although there's a part of me that feels like they may. If you're Wes Miller, there's your history against Xavier, which is not great, in spite of last year. There's just not a lot of signature wins to hang your hat on. There's not a whole lot of equity built up by previous NCAA tournament appearances. There's growing unease, unrest, however you want to phrase it, based on losing to Eastern Michigan and to a degree losing to Louisville. So there's all of that. And then you just start to look at the season. Last year, UC lost one non-conference game, laid a clunker on the road against Villanova. They didn't play great against Xavier, but they won. They didn't play great against Dayton, but they won. They beat a Dayton team that had played really well in Maui, beat UConn in Maui. They had gone on the road and beaten Georgia Tech. Say what you want about it, but they played a true road game against NKU and they won that one. And so you kind of came out of the non-conference. You're like, all right, cool, one loss. And then remember how conference play started. They lost at Kansas State and never really got going. Can you imagine? And you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself with the Georgia game and the Clemson game, but can you imagine going into the Big 12 with as many as 5 losses? I don't know that you want to go into the Big 12 with 3 or 4. You'll have 3 minimum if you lose tomorrow. And that's before we even talk about how they beat some of those teams in the Big 12 that they are going to have to beat. They're going to have to beat some of those teams or at least win some of those games, even if they beat Xavier, even if they beat Clemson and Georgia. Think of the uphill battle they'll have in front of them. If they don't win tomorrow. And if they don't win the next 2, which unfortunately is on the table. So it's, I'm never going to pay much attention to people who talk about the game losing its luster. The dynamic of the game has changed. It matters more when both teams are good. It doesn't feel like either team is good. The game is better when it's in February. I think all of us agree with that. But it doesn't mean it's not special. It doesn't mean it's not going to be an awesome atmosphere tomorrow. And it's really huge for the UC Bearcats. It is an enormous game for the UC Bearcats. It's an enormous game for the UC Bearcat basketball team. It is obviously a very big game for the UC basketball coach.